The waters are choppy. There aren't a lot of answers in the world right now, but that won't stop employees from looking for them from their leaders. The spotlight is on executives to communicate effectively during this crisis. As Aaron Ain, CEO of a 6,000-person company, puts it,
when they're truly choppy in a negative way, you have to communicate even more than normal.
PI has gone through restructuring, right-sizing, and moving fully remote in the past 3 weeks. Throughout it all, our leadership team has kept everyone in the loop regarding pivotal decisions through a multitude of channels. Our content team interviewed them for this video so that we could pass on some of that wisdom to you. So here are 5 tips for internal communication that you can really check yourself against.
Yes, you might have to stitch random sentences together.
Tip number 1. Transparency is king. Just make sure you're being certain.
There's this saying about, nobody likes being treated like a mushroom, and I'm no different, right? Being kept in the dark and fed organic matter. I think that applies to everybody. So when it comes to it, the more people know, the less they have to make the story up themselves.
Of course, this is easier in theory, but if you don't have all of the answers yet, but still want to be transparent, well, there's a very helpful equation for this.
The audience that you talk to usually grows as the certainty grows. And I think that's one of the key things that you should be thinking about as crisis unfold.
That is to say, keep people in the loop with your guiding principles and how leadership is leaning, but don't cause unnecessary panic with uncertain information. Tip number 2, host a weekly town hall meeting. Every Friday afternoon, we host an internal webinar with our senior leadership as panelists. We call it PITV.
PITV has become the kind of end of the week regroup of the entire company in a very casual format where it's a question and answer session. So employees can ask whatever they want. They get to see the entire management team in a very casual setting, and it's a good way to end of the week, and it's a way to get transparent, direct communication out to the team.
I encourage you to try something similar with your company. Allow for anonymous questions and be transparent with your answers. Tip number 3, take a pulse by using surveys and polls. At PI, we use an engagement survey to measure how employees are feeling across 4 factors of disengagement: job, team, manager, and organization. But if your company doesn't have something as defined as this, one free software you could try is Mentimeter. On your next all hands, put out a simple poll to the company and see how everyone is feeling, and remind everyone that answers are anonymous. Tip number 4, if you have to do a reduction in force, alumni come first. Okay, let's talk about the hard decision for a second. When it comes to communicating about a reduction in force, it's important to take care of the alumni even more than those who stay at the company.
And that goes against the common wisdom that says you need to focus on your survivors. But the reality is, anybody who stays with the company, the first thing they look at is, how did you treat the people that left? How did you treat my friends that are no longer here? And you can lose all the trust with the people who stay if you don't treat the people who left in a very gracious, empathetic, and genuine way.
Besides giving alumni severance, career resources, and extended benefits, one of the biggest things you can do is just check in on them. After all, a layoff should be thought of as a months-long process, not a simple transaction.
In each of our phone calls, we had a rating system, and that was in the response that the employee had, 1 through 3. And that really helped us prioritize from a people perspective on where we needed to lend our support first. So calls that maybe the reaction wasn't as good, or we felt the person might have more questions, or whatever it may be, was rated a 3. So we knew Friday it was important for us to reach out and talk to those people.
Tip number 5, be authentic yet optimistic. The world is incredibly uncertain, and the economy is sinking a little bit. So be human. Talk about that. Maybe you should even take a day off and share it with the company to encourage others to practice self-care. But whatever you do, don't convey a sense of hopelessness. Talk about the future.
Because the more you talk about the future of the company, the more likely the company is to have a future. And the reality is, you can't be tone deaf in that, but you also can't omit it from the conversation, because people want hope. They want something to look forward to. You need a pragmatic optimism, because that is in my opinion, one of the best ways to lead through adversity.